Welcome back to this channel. This time we will discuss My Hero Academia, World Heroes Mission. This film is a 2021 animated film and the third movie in the My Hero Academia series. The film was officially announced on March 27, 2021 and premiered on August 6, 2021 in Japan. It was released in North America, the United Kingdom, and Ireland, on October 29, 2021. It tells about a terrorist organization threatens to wipe out the superhuman society. The fate of the world hangs in the balance of the future heroes. Within hours until the collapse of civilization, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki must work as a team. Without further ado, let's immediately discuss the plot of the film. Deep in a secret underground cavern facility, a lone defector, Alan Kay, flees from the terrorist organization known as Humorize, who worships the Quark Singularity Doomsday Theory, believing that quarks will eventually become so powerful they will lead to the extinction of humanity. Their leader, Fleckturn, demonstrates their resolve by detonating one of the bombs in an unknown major city in a country. The bombs contains chemically enhanced trigger gas that will cause the quirks of anyone who consumes it to go out of control and shortly die, resulting in the widespread destruction of the city by the people whose quirks are enhanced beyond their control. Both civilians and pro-heroes stationed in the city were consumed by their overpowered quirks before dying from the exposure and shock. Survivors of the bombing are all quirkless, and Humorize agents, who were immune to the bombing because they too were quirkless, pick up the survivors to recruit them to join their cause. Sometime after the bomb's detonation, Humorize had hacked into every single communications network, announcing to the heroes that they claim responsibility for the bombing and had planted bombs filled with the enhanced chemical trigger gas in major cities around the world and planned to use these bombs to infect the major cities and kill the entire Quark population to save humanity from extinction caused by the Quarks. In response to the act of terrorism, the All-Star World Heroes Association, led by All Might, mobilizes the largest international joint task force made up of the top heroes all over the globe to each of the designated targets in hopes of stopping the bombs and defeating the terrorists. Their mission is to simultaneously raid the known Humorize branches and apprehend the leader of Humorize while keeping the entire operation in secrecy to avoid mass hysteria in the public. Various members from Class 1A and Class 1B from the UA Heroes course were recruited to boost the numbers of the heroes both at home and overseas. The lurkers recruited their trainees Minoru Mineta, Hanta Siro, Denki Kaminari, and Abara Shiozaki to join Salam in raiding the Humorize branch in Egypt. Ochako Uraraka, Suyu Asui, and Najire Hato were selected by Yukio to raid the Humorize base in Paris, France. Gang Orca assembled a joint operation with Present Mike and Smintas in Tokyo, Japan to raid a Humorize forward operating base with the trainees, Kyoka Jiro and Mezzo Shoji. Fat Gum and his trainees, Eijiro Kirishima, Tetsu, and Tamaki Amajiki will assist with the Japanese operations. Momo Yaoyorozu and Setsuna Tokage were chosen by Majestic to assist Singapore's top hero, Big Red Dot. Hawks and Fumikage Tokiyami are sent to New York City, United States with Shishido and his trainees, Masharao Ojiro, Rikido Sato, Narengeki Shota, and Jirota Shishida to apprehend the American branch. The heroes of the Endeavor Agency, including work-study trainees Izuku Midoriya, Katsuki Bakugo, and Shoto Todoroki, join a secret covert Black Ops mission to Uthen, where the main headquarters is presumably located, and apprehend the leader. Once the operation begins, the heroes attack Humorize's forward operating bases. In Uthen, the heroes and trainees raid the headquarters via Halo Jump, with Endeavor and Vernon leading the first team with clairvoyance to locate the bombs, while the trainees in the second team move in to apprehend the members and their leader. Claire uses her clairvoyance quirk to see through X-ray in order to find the bombs, but she informs them that there were none in the building. Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki from the secondary team were also unsuccessful in locating the leader. The heroes around the globe have successfully raided the other branches, but none were able to uncover any trace of the trigger bombs or their leader, and are ordered to be on standby. In the Uthen capital city, a street urchin named Rody Soul has been taking sketchy jobs in order to make money to take care of his younger brother and sister. He comes with a recent job to be a courier man for a robbery of uncut, untraceable jewelry. As the lowest-ranking members of the team, Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki were making some errands for the heroes, much to Katsuki's annoyance and frustration. They discuss about Humorize and their fanatical paranoia about the quirk Singularity when a jewel robbery is being commenced nearby. Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki spot the robbery and respond quickly. The villains saw them and split up with Shoto and Katsuki easily capturing the jewelry villains. However, Izuku notices Rodi running away with the briefcase given by the robbers and makes a break into a chase after Rodi across the city, through the streets and on the rooftops. Izuku tries to apprehend him with his black whip, but Rodi, who is exceptionally skilled in thievery and parkour, easily evades all of his attacks. At the same time, Alan Kay attempts to escape with a briefcase in his possession to alert the authorities, but he is ambushed by a Humorize agent, Barrows, who uses her longbow quirk to shoot armor-piercing laser arrows, leading to a car crash on a bridge that ends up in the middle of Izuku and Rodi's chase. In the scuffle, Rodi grabs the briefcase supposedly meant to contain the jewelry, and nearly gives Izuku the slip, but he catches up inside the subway station. The two fight over the briefcase until they realize it only contains documents, books, and notepads, confusing the two, especially Rodi since he was supposed to deliver the jewelry to a dealer. Back on the bridge, Shoto was able to spot the crash and freeze the car to prevent it from exploding. There, he notices the large bullet-like holes on the car, indicating that the car was targeted for an attack and not in a car accident. Nearby, unknown to the police, Barrows checks the briefcase, only to find it containing the untraceable, uncut diamonds. She informs her leader, Fleck Turn, about the situation, and he orders her to take precaution to eliminate the witnesses. As Rodi and Izuku try to understand the mix-up, the other police arrive in SWAT gear. Izuku tries to defuse the situation, but suddenly, the other police responds with a shoot-to-kill order and shoot at him and Rodi. Izuku escapes with Rodi by swinging throughout the city with Black Whip, avoiding the police, and taking the chase to the Uthen Sky Bridge. As Izuku was able to evade the police, they are suddenly attacked by Barrows. Rodi passes out from the shock and Izuku is forced to escape into the ocean water to avoid civilians getting hit in the crossfire. Back in the Uthen team's headquarters, Endeavor reprimands both Shoto and Katsuki for disobeying direct orders to stand by and for stopping a petty thievery instead, and demands to know where Izuku is. Shoto claims that Izuku was chasing after the third person suspected of helping the jewelry villains, but he hasn't called back or answered his phone. Right on cue, Izuku gets in contact with Shoto, explaining the situation with him being shot at by the police and a villain. As Izuku continues on to explain his encounter, Shoto and the rest of the team are notified by Claire showing them to the television screen where the Uthen International News Agency announces that Izuku is publicly accused of a mass murder of 12 people, notifying the entire nation that he is considered to be extremely armed and dangerous, resulting in putting him on the most wanted list. The entire team are shocked of Izuku's accusation as Shoto tells him to stay off the grid, and remove the GPS chip on his phone once he is done talking. The news of Izuku's accusation spreads to the entire world, including All Might and the members of Class 1A who are all shocked by the evidence. Class 1A voice their opinions of Izuku's innocences in protest over the false claims by the Uthen government. In Uthen, Izuku and Rodi are now wanted fugitives by the authorities. With no support or contact from Endeavor and the other teams, Izuku figures out that the reason for the police to be shooting at them was because of the briefcase that Rodi stole. Rodi suggests to hand the briefcase over to the police to clear their names, but Izuku advises against it in concern that the police and the villain who attacked them with arrows are hunting them. In short, Izuku and Rodi decide to make their way over to the neighboring city of Clade, where the Uthen police won't have jurisdiction. They change out their clothes and disguise themselves as native tourists to avoid being spotted by anyone and the police. At the Uthen Police HQ, Endeavor complains to the Uthen Chief of Police to demand for the charges against Izuku to be dropped, but the Chief of Police refuses, filing the evidence that are against Izuku to be under Uthen's jurisdiction much to Endeavor's frustration. However, unknown to Endeavor, the Chief of Police is revealed to be a member of Humorize and was able to file false claims of Izuku's accusation of being a mass murder in order for Humorize to retrieve the briefcase and eliminate them. Meanwhile, at the Uthen Hero team's base, Shoto is informed by Claire that she had a detective friend to look into the car that had the bullet-like holes, and it was revealed to be caused by a quirk, and the driver, Alan Kay, is a defective scientist from Humorize who has survived the crash, but was left in a comatose state. Furthermore, she also informs Shoto that the briefcase that contains the uncut, untraceable jewelry were left at the scene of the crime. Shoto later receives a coded message from Izuku, revealing his intended new destination to Clade, and recruits Katsuki to meet him there, having to deduce that the briefcase they possess is related to Humorize. They notice that the police are also trailing them, so they manage to evade them as well. While heading to the rendezvous point, Katsuki and Shoto recap Izuku's experience with the police shooting at him and his encounter with a villain targeting him and Rody, deducing that Humorize have already infiltrated some of the police units in Uthen, which explains their heavy mobilization, the false claims, and Izuku making a run for the Clade-Uthen border, so they decide to take precaution of trusting no one but themselves. Meanwhile, Izuku and Rody take a break inside of an old farmhouse to get some rest for the night before they can move again. Rody becomes distressed over leaving his siblings alone, remembering the unbearable childhood of his past. He remembers his father, Eddie Soul, abandoning him and his younger siblings to join the terrorist organization, Humorize, resulting in his siblings being kicked out of every house and losing their friends. Rody couldn't let his siblings suffer even more when he was gone, so overnight he takes the briefcase and secretly reports to the police. Outside, Rody spots a search helicopter arriving, only to learn that Humorize have already been notified and sent Barrows and Rogone to take the briefcase and kill him. However, Izuku arrives to save him and escape, having been woken up by his bird companion, Pino. Izuku is shot in the chest by one of Barrows' arrows in the fight, destroying his phone, leaving him and Rody without any communications to contact the Uthen team. Rody apologizes for his actions while helping stitch him up, and Izuku forgives him, announcing his intentions to become the hero like All Might, someone Rody has respect for. The next morning, Rody is able to get a truck, and as they travel, the two get closer to each other, with Rody explaining how he and his siblings were abandoned by everyone after his father suddenly left to join Humorize, stating that they are the most important things in life for him now. After days of traveling, Izuku and Rody had finally reached to the Uthen-Cladian border in the canyon, only to find out that the only way to get across is heavily guarded by the police, forcing them to climb up on the canyon to escape. Rody offers the briefcase to get Izuku out of the country safely and easier, but then the two are once again attacked by Barrows and another Humorize agent, Saitaro. She shoots arrows at Izuku and Rody, but Izuku is able to evade quickly despite his injuries. Saitaro gives Barrows some iron balls using his quirk to create and detach iron balls from his knuckles and then enlarge in size and mass, causing Rody to fall off the cliff. Fortunately, Rody was saved by Katsuki and Shoto, who arrived on the border. Shoto defeats Saitaro and Katsuki chases after Barrows. Out of arrows and finding herself cornered, Barrows chooses to jump out of the helicopter into the chasm, right before it crashes. In the aftermath, Izuku discovers a hidden compartment in the briefcase, containing a puzzle that Rody remembers solving as a kid, uncovering inside a memory device and data disk. The four head to the nearest town in Clade to investigate it, discovering a message from Alan Kay, who was one of the scientists forced to work for Humorize to create the trigger bombs. There, he explains Fleck Turn's true goal: to use the first terrorist bombing as a decoy to lure as many of the top heroes around the world to the designated targets, acting as their forward operating bases where he can detonate the bombs worldwide, killing the majority of the heroes and then proceed to exterminate the rest of the people with quirks once civilization is destroyed from within by the chaotic anarchy and societal collapse. Alan reveals that he and Eddie, Roddy's father who was killed shortly after his treachery was discovered, created a device that will shut down the bombs for good. Fleck Turn was informed of Roddy's escape with the briefcase into Clade borders, so he is forced to begin his final phase of his plan. Humorize publicly broadcasts to the world that they will detonate their bombs in 2 hours at over 25 different countries with the highest population in the major cities, and as a result, causing massive widespread hysteria and panic all throughout the world, specifically at all of the 25 countries. The All-Star World Heroes Association has given the heroes the green light to scramble in defense to the major cities that are being targeted by Humorize in attempt to quell the society and locate the bombs. Once the heroes manage to found the bombs, the heroes engage in an all-out war against the Humorize sleeper agents, both heavily armed and enhanced with quirk-empowering drugs. Izuku, Katsuki, and Shoto also saw the entire broadcast, and Rody realizes that his siblings are within one of the bomb's blast radius. They are also aware of the Uthen team being deployed to the Uthen capital to locate the bombs, leaving them without support. With no backup and running out of time, the four of them decide to take the disarming device to disable the bombs. Katsuki is able to figure out the exact location of Humorize's true home base, and with Rody flying them there on a plane, they head out to shut down the bombs. The three heroes gear up and launch a direct assault at the Humorize's base, heavily guarded by armed terrorists and empowered quirk users. Katsuki launches a blitzkrieg attack using explosion to clear a path for Shoto and Izuku while he deals with the army. After Katsuki takes down the weaker members, he deals with a group of killer twins known as the Serpenters. He fights against them using combined moves such as AP Shot, Auto Cannon, Explosive Speed and AP Shot, only to be completely outclassed by their incredible speed and agility, constantly getting sliced and stabbed by their sword kill quirk, which can cut through even the biggest of his explosions. Knowing that he cannot outmatch them altogether, Katsuki decides to outsmart them by planting some of his grenades on the ceiling to cause the cave entrance to collapse onto them. Unfortunately, the Serpenters used Trigger to break out of the rubble, gaining more speed, agility, and sharper blades. They start to slice and dice Katsuki mercilessly while dodging his explosions. Katsuki starts to struggle against the Serpenters but keeps on pushing until he manages to trick them by grabbing both of their blades and then slamming them against the cavern wall to immobilize their movement. Now that the Serpenters are trapped, Katsuki fires both his grenadier bracers to blast them and then goes all out to defeat the Serpenters with his super move, Howitzer Impact, before he collapses from the blood loss. Meanwhile, Izuku and Shoto have successfully broke through Humorize's defenses and Shoto stays behind to hold off the incoming reinforcements. Once Shoto defeats the other members, he comes to face against a giant behemoth quirk user known as Leviathan. He uses his half-cold half-hot quirk to stop the behemoth, but the villain was impervious to any of the flame attacks because his quirk, Helical Scythe, enables him to twist and control the red appendages on his fingers and head to cancel the fire. Shoto tries to use his ice to freeze him, but the villain is revealed to be induced with the same chemically enhanced trigger that makes him stronger enough to break through the ice. Leviathan overpowers Shoto and smashes him into the underground river where he uses his quirk to control the flow of the water in attempt to drown Shoto, leaving him no room to escape. Fortunately for Shoto, he notices that the underground river leads him to the waterfall outside, giving him the opportunity to escape Leviathan's grasp and freeze the waterfall before he traps the villains inside of the ice with Flash Freeze Heatwave. Despite trapping the villain, Leviathan breaks free by controlling the flow of fire too, burning Shoto under the extreme heat of fire. While being trapped by Leviathan, Shoto concentrates his left side and uses the flow of the fire to defeat Leviathan using his super move, Jet Kindling, before he and the villain fall back into the waterfall. Now as the lone hero left inside the Humorize base, Izuku reaches the main hub and encounters Fleckturn himself. Izuku reasons that the quirk singularity hasn't been verified by the scientific community, and accuses his actions based on his fear and paranoia. Fleckturn answers that the quirk will evolve to the point where they become destructive and incapable of control, creating a mass extinction level event that will bring the end of humanity. Izuku retaliates by attacking Fleckturn with Saint Louis Smash, but he discovers that Fleckturn's quirk, Reflect, forces him to reflect anyone and anything that comes in contact with him with the same power level as the one reflected against. Fleckturn reasons that the quirk he has resulted in everyone abandoning him, leading to him believing quirks are a disease. Izuku attacks Fleckturn with Delaware Smash Air Force, but it's reflected back to him again, and every one of his punches and kicks are thrown right back at him, which followed by an onslaught of laser attacks that shot him multiple times, severely wound him. Rody suddenly appears and seemingly prepares to betray Izuku, having already made a deal with Humorize not to detonate the Uthen bomb in exchange for saving his siblings. Rody is about to give the disarming key to Fleckturn, however, thanks to Pino, who Rody had revealed to him earlier is actually his quirk, Soul, an extension of himself, and shows his true feelings, Izuku realizes it's a feint and uses the opportunity to catch Fleckturn off guard. Rody is fatally wounded by lasers in the scuffle, but continues to make his way to deactivate the bombs while Izuku keeps Fleckturn at bay. The hero enters 30% of One for All and attacks Fleck Turn with volumes of kicks and punches, but each one air always reflected by his quirk. Both Izuku and Fleck Turn were evenly matched until Fleck Turn starts to budge from the attacks. Izuku eventually realizes that Fleck Turn's reflecting quirk cannot sustain too much damage, and every time it reflects an attack, Fleck Turn loses stamina and the reflect gets weaker. Pushing through with another barrage of kick attacks and powerful punches, Fleck Turn starts to fall back even further. Inspired by everyone else all around the world still fighting their hardest even when things seem at its bleakest, Izuku vows to defeat Fleck Turn and pushes himself beyond his limitation by activating One for All. Full Cal 100%, overloading the Reflect quirk with a bombardment of super fast punches that causes the Reflect quirk to be stretched further beyond its limits until the quirk releases its pent-up energy. Izuku finally knocks the villain out for good using the built-up energy to power his super move, United States of World Smash. He arrives to the Master Trigger Bomb to find Rhodey, who is still alive, and Pino, barely managing to insert the device in time, saving the world. With the terrorist plot foiled and imminent destruction averted, it was a decisive victory for the heroes worldwide. All the surviving Humorize members have been arrested, the bombs are safely removed, and the injured heroes are treated with medical care. Recovery Girl manages to retrieve Izuku, Katsuki, Shoto, and Rhodey, who reunites with his younger siblings. As the heroes from the Endeavor Agency prepare to head back to Japan, Izuku and Rhodey bid a tearful goodbye to each other. After the end of the mission, Class 1A reunite back at UA. While Rhodey gets a job as a bartender and continues to care for his siblings, as well as looking to pursue his dream as a pilot. Thank you so much to all of you who have watched this video till the end. See you again in the next video.